Welcome to this video, and in this video we will discuss the back office processes, and that are the activities which has to deal with mortgage servicing. We will discuss building depots, we'll have a look at financial flows, and that's including the redemptions on the loan. We'll look at interest resets. When people divorce, then there are a lot of changes to the mortgage product, and we'll conclude with some other product changes. But first we have a look at a building depot. A building depot, and the Dutch word is bouwdepot, is used when consumers buy a new to build house. And if the consumer buys the house, at that moment he buys a plot of land, and maybe the house is half finished. So that will mean that the loan is not paid in full. So the bank, they originate the loan, but the money that is needed to finish the house is not given to the consumer and is kept in what we call a depot. And that money is used to pay the builder's bills for finishing the house. And there are two ways to do that. Sometimes the mortgage banks, the lenders, they pay the builder, and sometimes they pay the customer. But you have to send in a bill before the bank is paying the money. This depot is a bank account, and depending on the interest rate of your mortgage, there's interest paid over the amount of money in the building depot. The last years, the process has been highly automated, and with a lot of lenders, this process is supported by an app. So a consumer can scan the bill of the builder. It's automatically sent to the servicing department, and from there the money is transferred to the builder or to the consumer. When the house is finished, we check if the building depot is empty, and if not, or the money is given to the consumer, or we use it to do an extra repayment on the loan. Now we have a look at financial flows, and we have a few slides, and the first is about direct debits. And direct debits in Dutch is incasso, and that has to do with the monthly payment of interest and capital and maybe cost or premium with a connected product. And I guess that 99.7% of all the mortgages in the Netherlands, they have direct debits. So we are not sending invoices. The really major tool to do the monthly installments is the direct debit, and that is what we call a SEPA incasso. We have SEPA, which is a European system of direct debits, and that's used by all the European banks, of course, for EU countries. In the calculation of the amounts, there is a settlement between the interest on the depot account and the rest of the cost from the loan. And it's a really exception if you not have a monthly payment, quarterly or maybe annual. It's really an exception. What will happen if the direct debit fails? And then we have a result of non-payment. First of all, why could that happen? First of all, there is not enough money in the current account that is direct debited, or the account is blocked, or the consumer can roll back the direct debit after a certain time. Up until 6 weeks after the direct debit, the consumer is able to roll back the direct debit, and we call it a storno. So the lender knows for sure that the customer has paid 6 weeks after the date of the direct debit. And if you will end up with a non-payment, the lender will charge you a penalty, and then the special servicing processes start with chasing the customer with a payment and maybe extra intensive servicing afterwards. An extra repayment or extra aflossing is when the consumer decides to repay more than the payment schedule, the regular scheme on the loan. And there can be different reasons for that. Maybe, and we see it especially at the end of the year, when consumers make up their mind and their balance and decide to use some saving money to pay off a mortgage. And in the old days, that was quite an issue because you needed good references to the loan number and to the consumer. So that could cause a lot of work. But nowadays, extra repayments are done by a consumer portal. And in combination with our online payment system, it's called Ideal. It's a system from the Dutch banks. We can do very easy extra payments, and because it's online in the mortgage administration, we are able to process the extra repayment directly and can send the consumer information about, let's say, the new capital in the loan and maybe his new monthly installment amount. So that's much more easy and less work than it was a couple of years ago. An extra payment can cause a switch of what we call an LTV bucket. In the module about Dutch mortgages, we explain how this works. So it also can cause that the interest rate of the consumer will go down. We do not only have extra repayments, there are also total repayments. But if there is a total repayment, the mortgage will be stopped. And total repayments are always done via the notary. Total repayment in, I would say 99% of the cases has to do with selling the house and transferring a house from one customer to another customer. That's an activity of a notary in the Netherlands. You have to go to the notary if you want to buy a house. For this total repayment, there will be a specification, and we will explain how much capital and how much interest, and maybe a settlement with the depot account, and the settlement with, let's say, saving products. And those products, they are connected to our old mortgage products, and that's also discussed in the module about the Dutch mortgage products. There's also a cancellation of the mortgage right. We explained that in our module about Dutch mortgage systems and laws, and that's done in the Landregistry. And the Dutch word for cancellation a mortgage is royement. Let's now have a closer look to interest rates and interest rates changes. First of all, we have an interest reset. After the fixed period, and it can be 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, we have interest reset. We call it in Dutch renteherziening, and it's after the fixed period, and that is called rentevaste periode. But customers sometimes don't want to wait until the reset date, and they want to have, let's say, a reset of interest earlier. So it's always on request of the customer. And there are two ways to do that. It's with a breakup fee, the consumer is not fulfilling the whole interest period, he wants to break up. And normally he wants to break up when the interest is lower, and that is a disadvantage for the bank. So this disadvantage will be translated into a breakup fee. We have also a system without a breakup fee. Then the fee is spread over the coming years, and that's called in Dutch rentemiddeling, and I would translate it as interest mixing. It's already said, you can change LTV bucket, that's the risicoklasse, because of a planned repayment in the scheme. On the moment, for instance, that your LTV is lower than 85%. After an extra repayment, and often we see that consumers start calculating and the repayment is just enough to enter a lower LTV bucket, but also when house prices increase. That's not automatically, but consumers can initiate a new appraisal from the house, so they don't repay the loan, but they send a new appraisal report to the lender, and then the LTV will go down. Divorce. Yes, that's a big issue when you do the mortgage administration, because it's accumulation of a number of changes to the product. One of the partners stays in the house, and so there has to be a new application for the mortgage, because the lender wants to sort out if the partner can pay the mortgage on his own. And sometimes he needs extra money to buy out the leaving partner, and there can be more changes at the same time. To have a good customer service and to improve the customer journey, lenders have initiated special what we call divorce teams to handle these requests. And one of the issues is that there are several separate individual changes, but the combination of the changes and the integrated communication with the consumer is in these cases very important. And maybe it even results in having a new partner in the mortgage, and that's what we call it bijverbinden. Of course, there are other technical product changes. For instance, your repayment type. It can be possible that you have a partly sale of the property. We call it gedeeltelijk royement. And for old product, we have all kind of changes to policies, which can be the insured amount, or stop the policy, or change the duration, etc., etc. So in summary, we see that there is a great variety of contract mutation. And it's not like in the mid-office with underwriting and origination that there is a very clear flow of activities which where one follows the other. It's more a mix of changes which can happen. And there's more complexity when we have old products because of the policies and the other saving products. And what we see is that the lenders and the servicers are improving the customer journeys, and that there is more and more self-service through apps and portals. And if you have a complex situation with more changes at the same time, it's really also important that you handle all these changes together, and that there is some kind of overall process also in the communication with the consumer. We have other models, and related to this video, the Dutch mortgage products are interesting, but also the processes in the mid-office, which are underwriting and origination. Success with your study, and I hope to see you in one of our online sessions.